the U.S. government in general, the trust in our commanders in the field and so forth had been so undermined and eroded that there was no way that you could continue the war and achieve what we might have otherwise. That's just one of many examples. The French didn't get the big ideas right in Vietnam, actually Indochina at that time. They didn't get the big ideas right in Algeria. Iraq and Afghanistan, as I'm sure we'll get into, we had moments of really doing it right. The two invasions toppled these regimes in surprisingly short periods of time. I was a two-star general commander of the Great 101st Airborne Division for the invasion and the first year there. But boy, did we make mistakes after that, off and on. I mean, firing the Iraqi military without telling them what their future was a colossal mistake. It created hundreds of thousands of young men with weapons and military training whose incentive was to oppose the new Iraq rather than to support it. And then we compounded that by de-Baathification, doing away with Saddam's party, all the way down to the level that included the bureaucrats, tens of thousands, that we were already using to help us run a country we didn't sufficiently understand without a reconciliation process and agreed rate. So it's one thing if you have a reconciliation process that gives them hope for the future. But for example, up in Mosul, where we'd gone by the time I was at that point in the war, we had 120 tenured professors that I needed to run Mosul University, who were actually great people. They were Western educated. The bulk of them were all the UK and American PhDs. Heck, a lot of them drank. What more could you want in partners in a Muslim country? So anyway, that cut us off at the knees. We rebuilt it up in my area because I got an exception to policy to allow reconciliation. No one else did, and it wasn't really fixed until the surge came around. So again, very checkered history here. The British did do it brilliantly. Falklands, Malaysia, where they first mentioned hearts and minds, of course, Templar, Oman, and so forth. And the U.S., to be fair enough, Panama, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, the Gulf War, and some others as well. But I've gone on about this for a period of time because this is the paramount task of a strategic leader. If you don't get the strategy right, if you don't get the big ideas right, the effort is doomed. And we want the reader to really understand that. Then, as was mentioned by Chris, you have to communicate the big ideas effectively through the breadth and depth of your organization and throughout all those who have a stake in the outcome of the conflict. This is not just number 10 Downing Street, the White House, the Pentagon, Congress. It's America's mothers and fathers. It's your Iraqi partners and counterparts. It's all of that. And you have to be open to the press in a lot of ways as well.